All right, welcome back. This is episode 6.5. This is my 6,500th episode. You may ask yourself, where are the other episodes at? I don't know. Couldn't tell you. There's no evidence that they exist, but I'll leave that up to you to decide whether or not I have that many episodes. Holy cow, the worst way to start a podcast. But yeah, there's a reason that this is episode 6.5 and not 7. I'll get to that in a little bit, explain that. The point in this episode, though, is straight up gear talk, because this is something that I get all the time. People constantly message me asking gear questions, and it's cool because, I don't know, I feel like they trust me enough to ask gear questions. And sometimes the conversations come down to like, why do you have this lens? Why do you have this camera? And why did you previously buy this and not that? So that's what this episode's for, to kind of go over what I do have and why I bought it. And I'll kind of like go chronologically from when I first started to now. So if that interests you, feel free to stick around and listen. Even if you're new here listening to this, you're a subscriber from the last episode, which that episode blew up. I've never had a podcast get that many views, so has 11 likes on it right now and no dislikes, which is a good sign. I was a little bit nervous, honestly, but you guys liked it, so I appreciate the love on that. So I assume there's a few new people around here. But yeah, I'm going to do a little gear conversation here, and then I'll have friends on the episode. I'll have friends on the episode later on to talk more gear stuff with me, to have like their opinions on their stuff so you can hear more gear talk. So let me know in the comments if that interests you at all. And I guess real quickly before we dive into this, it's episode 5.5 because I went to record episode 6 with one of my buddies, and we got it all filmed, but it turns out the file sizes were like way too big to upload. So my friend's gonna ship me the footage, and I'll episode the edit. I'll edit the episode. Wow, holy shit. I'll edit the episode when I get the footage. And then episode 6 will be up. I had a friend of mine who, I guess I won't tell you too much about it. I'll leave you on the edge, leave you excited for that episode. Should be up, I think, this coming week sometime. If not next week, but I'll try to get it up this week whenever I get the footage. So stay tuned for episode 6, but hopefully you enjoy this episode 5.5 about gear talk. Meanwhile, so I'll kind of go over like the cameras that I have, the lenses that I have, and like why I have those things, like what made me originally buy them, because that's another hot question that I get a lot. I'll go over maybe some other stuff, some like lights that I've bought, just some technical stuff. So yeah, let's dive into this. So to start it from the top, the first like camera that I got was a Canon 60D, and honestly, I a long time ago used to not look up videos on this before I'd make a purchase. I would watch YouTubers that had it, and I would take their word. I'd just hear what they said and be like, cool, I'm getting it. You sold me, which I think is pretty typical to do. It makes a lot of sense, but I would say to do your research. There was this YouTuber named Ty Moss, and still to this day, I like super vividly remember his unboxing video of it. And I was like a big fan of his, so I was like, all right, he's got it. I'm buying it. No questions asked. And I really didn't even know what I was doing with the camera. I think I got it like my junior year of high school, maybe even before that. Maybe it might have been my freshman year even. But yeah, I had that camera, and I was like seriously learning how to use it. on the spot. I remember I took it to the skate park, and I first started to learn photo stuff on it. And one of my buddies at the skate park started teaching me how to. He started teaching me how to shoot photos, and he was teaching me like white balance, shutter, f-stop, and all that stuff on it. And I was in a photo class simultaneously in high school, which is where I got like my basic knowledge, like from my friend and the class teaching me like f-stop, shutter, white balance, and those two things went hand to hand really well, and it kind of made it click. So I started like, I guess the reason I bought that camera, I guess, comes from that YouTuber, but it also, the end reason ended up turning into I enjoyed it for photos. And then I started filming at the skate park. So I have this other camera called a VX1000. Some of you have seen me with it, some of you haven't. It's like this camera from the 90s that I film skateboarding on. So I was like in the process of making the transition to film like VX stuff and HD. And when I started filming with that 60D, I found out my friend was filming on his T3i. So I was like, this is cool because I think I have like the camera above that, so the quality should be pretty good. And I was like starting to learn about the quality. So the 60D helped me like build a foundation, I guess is where I'm getting with that. I also, after I had kind of a foundation, started looking up like YouTube videos that were like filmed on it, and I was like, pretty good camera for the time. I think it had like 24 frames in it, 30, and then like 60 and 720 on it, which was super cool. But I remember that I was like a little bit bummed out they didn't have 1080 at 60 frames per second. So I think it was like manageable at the time because I was like filming in that aspect ratio, and I was like totally cool with it. Man, I feel like I'm not answering questions here. But I think at the time that camera felt right because I was filming skateboarding and I'd seen other skateboarding videos with it. So my sole intent ended up being that I was filming skateboarding. I was also taking photos on it. If you go to my Flickr, flickr.com/wilmax95, and you scroll way back, you'll see some like older photos. If you go to the metadata on it, you'll see which ones I took with it. But it was taking some like pretty high quality photos at the time, and I was like super pleased with it. It even had like the little flip out screen on it, and I literally used the daylights out of that camera. I still have it. Like, I should have just had it all set up here to show you guys I should have just shown you guys the gear right here. But anyway, I use that camera like to its fullest extent. I shot skateboarding videos on it like every day. Took new photos on it like all the time. I started taking like random pictures too. I was taking pictures of like of like car shows and stuff like that. And which, I guess, let me get into that. So through filming skating, I just, because that's how the nature of skating is, you film with a fisheye. I bought an Optica 8mm fisheye, I think it was at the time. And that was like the fisheye that I used for a while on it. Might have even been like a Rokinon or something. But yeah, I used that fisheye. That was like the main lens I used. And then when I bought that camera, it came with a I think it was an 18-135 f4 to 5.6 or 4 to 8 or something like that. But it didn't have a steady f-stop. It was just like the typical kit lens that comes with it. And that was like the lens that I used. So I remember like when I'd zoom on it, it would get darker and stuff like that for video. But the lens worked nice for photo. And then I think at the time I was on my high school's video team. So this kid that was doing like a lot of the video stuff. I remember that let me check okay. I remember that he had a 50 millimeter, and I saw the results of what that lens could do. So I was like, maybe I should get that lens. And that lens I actually did research on before I bought it. I looked up like plenty of photos. I talked to a couple people that had it at the time, and I bought that lens. And then quick little funny side story. I remember I bought it, and then something happened where it didn't show up, so I canceled it. And then I ordered another one, but then that one showed up for some reason. And then I called them, and I was like, yo, I got this lens even though I wasn't supposed to. And they're like, keep it. So I got like 250 millimeters at the time. The one was free, so I don't know how that happened. But yeah, so I had a 18 to 135 that I was working off of, and a 50 millimeter and a fisheye. And I bought the 50 millimeter just for like the like blurry background sort of look on photos. And I sort of learned how to use it with video later on. Once I got the hang of it with photo, it just kind of clicked. I was like, I'll just use these same settings in video and it'll look cool. So that's what I started doing. And those were the lenses I worked with it. And then I think I filmed one thing that wasn't skating on it. I filmed this like interview of this guy for a class project of like a record store in downtown Wheaton. And that camera served me well. I remember I filmed it in like 24. I had a lot of fun making it at the time. But I think shortly down the road, I saw, I guess is the next camera I got. So I saw a video on YouTube of someone using a Canon 7D. But I remember looking up the price at the time, and it was like so much. It was like, it was so much. Wow. It costs a ton of money at the time. And I was just like, I don't know if I can afford this as like, like a 17 or 18-year-old or something. I was like, I don't know. So I kind of like let that go. And I saw a video from another friend with a Canon 6D. So not a 60D, but a 6D. And I was like super pleased with it. I was like, that's pretty crispy for the time. And I like looked at the lens they used. They were using like the 50 millimeter that I had. And I was like, you know what, this might be a good choice for me too, because it was like the next thing up from the 60D, so I felt like I was like upgrading, because at the time I was just like in this rut of like, I'll get the 60D, then I'll get the 6D, then the 7D, then the 70D. Like I was just going to keep following that track, which I'm sure some people do. But as I got more experience, I learned that that isn't something you should probably do. But yeah, so I ended up saving up a bunch of money, and I got the 6D later on. And I remember like I still used my 60D for fisheye stuff, and then used that for long line stuff. And I specifically remember like telling myself like, look, once you get this 60, you need to start shooting like not just skateboarding. Like you need to go like shoot some other like videos of your friends, or go shoot some just like shoot some class projects and be more involved with stuff. Because I felt like, I don't know, something about having that camera just like triggered me to be like, all right, you gotta do more stuff. And so I think I was shooting like a couple music videos for my high school that are still on YouTube with that camera. And I installed this like it was like a, not like a LUT pack, but it was like a color thing inside the camera, which it was another color picture, so it gave me like a different look, and I was able to edit with it better, and it looked really good on that camera, so I was like super pleased. And I was trying to use that camera specifically for video, just because I liked the way it looked, and I think once I was like using it, I noticed that I was using the 50 millimeter more, because that 18 to 35 didn't look as good on it. So I was like, ooh, I'm kind of like ready for another lens. And I think like a month or two later, I decided to start putting money down towards the 24 to 105 lens L series, because I was like, look, I need something I can zoom with and it not get darker. And I need like a good lens that's versatile for like literally anything and everything. And in the moment, I kind of like panicked. I was just kind of like, I don't know like what to do. I don't know who to talk to, whatever. And I remember one of my buddies at the skate park had this 24 to 105, and he let me kind of use his. And I was like, as soon as I like felt it and looked at it, I was like, this is it. There's no questions. There's like no questions to be asked here. Like, this is gonna be the one I get. And I guess kind of going off of that too, like you should rent a lens or at least like try one out or something before you get it, if you have the capability to do that, whether that's like an online site, whether that's like a friend that has it or something. Like sometimes it's hard to borrow lenses from people. I'm one not to rent out lenses or let people try stuff like that, just because I don't know, I'm like weird about my own gear. But if you're like with me or something and we're like next to each other, like, sure, try it out, swap it. But yeah, I would say like definitely try that. But it's always good to like watch YouTube videos too. Especially when you're about to buy a lens, because that lens, I remember like set me back quite a bit. It was like, I think the lens was like $1,100 at the time or $1,200 or something. And I remember like being like, all right, if I have this lens, I'm going to use it for a long time. And I'm 25 now, still using that lens. And that lens is still a lens that people are actively buying today. So yeah, I made a good purchase back then. So that's another thing to look into, like, especially when you're buying a lens. This is turning into like sorry, this is all over the place. It's turning into like an advice thing as well as equipment at the same time. But definitely like watch YouTube videos, see how those videos look. I'm gonna check the camera real quick. Definitely see how it looks on YouTube when you're about to buy the lens, because honestly, like, if you don't watch YouTube videos and then you get the lens and you're not happy with the results afterward, then I don't know, you might try to sell it and go after another lens. And yeah, I think that was what I liked about that lens. It was an f4, and I learned how to zoom on it. It was a lens I could use forever and ever. So that was why I bought that lens. And it looked good on my 6D, and I was always excited to use it. And so for the longest time ever, I was always like switching back and forth between my Canon 6D and a 60D, because I was like 60D fisheye, 6D long lens, and that was like forever the thing. Now, I guess one thing that I didn't talk about is this rig that I bought. At the time, they don't sell it anymore, but at the time there was this thing. I should have had all this equipment in my hand. At the time, they had this thing called the Easy Rig, and it's like this little handle. It's like maybe like this big. Sorry, people that are listening to this. Watch the YouTube video if you want to see how big I'm talking about. But it basically was this. It has like a handle on top, and it's kind of like counterbalanced so that when you're holding it, it kind of like puts some weight on your camera, makes it a little bit heavier. And I still use it now to film skating, or sometimes even like I'll just use it from time to time for random stuff. But it like counterbalances your camera and kind of like builds it out a little bit. And so I remember that was the rig that I had, and I think at the time I hadn't bought like any other additional gear because I didn't like see a need for it. I was just shooting like run and gun stuff in high school, and the 50 millimeter and that lens were like plenty. And like I think I used the fisheye a couple times, and then I was taking like more skate photos with the 24 to 105 because I was like so impressed with the quality that I was like, dude, I can keep taking more photos. So that was my sole intent with both those cameras and the lenses. Like, ended up being that I was like shooting skate stuff. It was serving my purpose for that. Other people had similar stuff, so I was like, all right, I'm like kind of up to date here. I'm like enjoying what I'm seeing. That's another thing. You have to make sure you like what you're seeing and don't just get something because other people have it. I think that's a lesson I learned. I, for the longest time, would only buy stuff, obviously, like I said at the beginning, because other people had it. But make sure that like what you're seeing, you're happy with at the end of the day. Because if you're not, you might have the wrong gear. I know like sometimes people say like, don't buy this or whatever. And that conversation's like, it's all like opinions and how people see their own footage and interpret it. Because at the end of the day, you can go find a forum that says, don't buy this, but then your homie can tell you to be buying that. And then that same homie could be like writing a whole nother forum about why you should buy it. So it's like, you really can't win with this stuff. It's the same thing with anything else. It's like buying it's like buying like, I guess I don't really have much of a frame of reference for that, but you get my point. So those were the first two cameras that I like started working with, first few lenses. And then, I guess, I don't know how much this has to do with it, but in between I was using that, VX1000 to film skating. So that's kind of like a camera I've always had in the background. And I think between that, if you guys want me to talk more about the VX, let me know. I think I want to make another podcast talking about it or another video. But I think between that, I bought this camera called a Fujifilm X100. And the Fujifilm is like this little point and shoot camera. It looks like an old 35mm film camera. Some people have seen me with that camera. And they're like, yo, is that 35mm camera? And I'm like, no, it's digital, but it looks like it. And it has like a video mode in it, but it's mainly for point and shoot. So that was like, I was still kind of like interested in photography at the time. So it felt like a fun little like, hey, I'm going to go on vacation here. I'm going to travel here and get these photos. And it was like a click and go type thing, but with some settings in it. So it was kind of a fun camera. It had like some film modes. I still use it to this day. So I have that camera. And that my purpose in that, obviously, I think I just said it was just shoot photos quick and be able to put them on the computer and just upload them. So that served that need. That's, I guess, if I didn't really cover that, that's something that that's before I get into like the next gear that I have. People always hit me up like, hey, should I buy this lens? Should I buy this camera? And the one thing that I always tell everyone is like, if you've asked me this, you've probably heard this back from me. I've been like, what do you want to shoot on it? What is your sole intentions? And what do you want to shoot? And it's because like certain cameras are made for certain shoots and certain things. And like I said earlier, the cameras I had were good for skateboarding. I'm sure they're good for plenty of other things, but always like know what you want to shoot and why you're buying that when it comes to cameras, lenses, and look up like, other videos and look at the descriptions, see what people shot that on. Cause that at the end of the day is what's gonna, be like the difference maker for what you're like putting out there. So I know there's like the whole Sony, Canon, Nikon, Panasonic, like all the different brand arguments of like Panasonic does this, Canon does this. So at the end of the day, look up videos, look what you are shooting, and whatever you like that produces the best quality is what you should get. Me saying go get Canon is me giving you my opinion because of what I've worked with. So if you trust my opinion, you like what I'm giving out and what I'm putting out there, then go buy the Canon. Go do it, because that's at the end of the day what you like because you've seen what I put out there. But so yeah, the next gear that I have, I guess it's it's kind of a joke because a lot of people that know me always make the joke like, what camera don't you have? Because I kind of hoard them. I have like 3 DSLRs and 2 cinema cameras. And the even like, okay, wait, I don't know if you can see them in this. Okay, you probably can't, but I have like 2 35 millimeters back on my shelf. And those ones are just fun to go shoot with like film stuff on. Go shoot. Wow, that didn't make any sense. Go shoot 35 millimeter film stuff on. That's why I have those. But my cinema cameras are the next things that I bought. And I bought another lens in here, so I'm going to talk about those. So the camera that I currently am using is a Canon C100. It's one of the ones I'm currently using. And I originally, before I bought it, my friends were all like, why are you buying this? What are you getting it for? And I was like, I think I want to shoot more documentary stuff on it, more like interviews. I for sure wanted to shoot music, and I think that was all I told people at the time. And I specifically remember watching a few YouTube videos that were saying like, this is a great documentary camera. This is like a great camera for shooting like interviews. This is a good camera for shooting like music. And in fact, I remember when I first started shooting with Sofar, my buddy that brought me on had a C100, and after I saw that, I was like, okay, so he has one. I saw this video, like say no more type thing, and I know that kind of like comes back to me just going after what's like out there and not like what I like, but I seriously saw what he was putting out there. And I saw like other music stuff filmed on it, and I was like, this looks pretty good, so this is gonna be the good choice. So I remember I dropped a bunch of money on that, and I was like, this will be a good long-term purchase, and it turns out it has been. I remember I first got it and filmed like one of my first Sofars with it, and I had my 24-105 on it, and I remember just like going home like geeking out over my own footage. As nerdy as that sounds, like I was like, oh my god, this looks so good. This is like everything I've needed it to do. And I remember like I got some good feedback on it, and I was like super pleased. The one thing that was different, it was like a higher grade, like cinematic 1080 looking footage. And there was like a couple different modes in it with like the color. There was like I remember it has like zebra mode. Well, I'm saying I remember like I used this before, but it has like zebra mode in it. It has like better color temperature settings. It has like a different picture mode on it. Has all these different ways to plug sound into it. And it just like, it looks, when you're filming, you can just tell it looks better and it looks good. So I was like, I'm glad I bought this, and I started filming more Sofars, and it just like the way you hold it and how big it is and like how you can look through the viewfinder, that was a huge selling point for me when I bought it, because I was like, wow, I finally have a camera that I can look through the viewfinder and film. Like, I don't know why that made me so happy, because on my VX you can do that, and I feel like it helps me film stuff better sometimes. And so I was like, wow, I can definitely do that with this camera. So I was super, super happy about that. And I remember after I was shooting with it for a while, I thought, man, I think I need like another lens with this camera, because all I had was a 50 millimeter, that 24-105. That other lens, the 18-135, didn't work on it anymore, because the C100 was full frame, and that wasn't made for a full frame. It was made for a crop sensor, so I had to let that lens go. To this day, I don't know where it went. I just got rid of it or something. But yeah, so I remember I needed another lens, but I didn't know what lens. And all of a sudden, it occurred to me that all the lenses I have were like kind of zoomed and close up. So I was like, let me get something that's like different, right? Because the 50mm is close. The other one's kind of a zoom, like a variable. And then I was like, I need something between that, and that'd be a wide lens. And this lens, I just straight up did my own research on. I don't think I saw anybody else with it or anything like that. I just like went on YouTube and was like, wide camera lenses, Canon. And one of the first results was like 17 to 40 millimeter f4L. And keep in mind, like, I wanted to get that L series lens because that L glass is like so nice. It's a very like high quality glass, high quality lens, and it's a lens I still use to this day. It's nice to kind of like back out, or it's kind of nice to like be close to somebody, but seeing like a wide picture. Or it also kind of helps when you have like a microphone mounted and you want to get like a shot that looks like you're further back, but you still want to get the good audio. You can be almost like right up in their face, but it looks like they're like way, way in the back, which is really cool. So I watched some YouTube videos, saw some stuff like that, and I was starting to go in my head like, where will you use this? Like, what are you going to shoot with it? You know, I'm not just going to buy something because of features or whatever. And I started racking my brain. I'm like, all right, maybe I could shoot some more like music videos, or maybe I'll be able to like use this for music, to like use it as a camera that I dock on the back and get like a nice wide shot. Maybe I'll be able to take some like cooler skate photos. I had this like effect on it on one of my cameras, on the 60 when I put it on there. So I was like, oh, this would be like really cool, because I saw some stuff on Flickr with it. So at that point I was like, okay, I need to buy this. So I bought it, and I still use that lens. I was just using it the other day. And I think those two lenses have been some of my best purchases to this day. Just because of, you know, obviously the other one I'm able to zoom, and I'm also able to like zoom pretty far in on it. And they're f4, like steady f4, which is nice. And then the 17 to 40 is just wide, and I can zoom a little bit on it, but it works really good for music shoots. And it's nice whenever someone else has a zoom lens and like, hey, can you shoot a little bit wider? I'm like, sure. Then I have that lens. I think the 50 I bought, and I felt restricted with it because it's a 50 millimeter. There's no zoom on it. And if you know me, you know I like my zoom lenses. I've always liked zoom lenses. The feeling of like being restricted, or kind of like on a shoot where you're like, I have to be here to get this shot when you could be somewhere else, is like, I don't know, a little bit daunting to me, I guess. I think someday I'll get there. I know prime lenses are really nice. Someday I'll be a prime guy. A prime guy. Wow. But for now, I like my zoom lenses a lot. And I bought, so the C100, also like, it has like these different crop modes in it. So I can like set it up so that, I can like make the shot kind of like more cropped on the top of, or the bottom of the frame. I have some old videos I posted like that. It's just like a different aspect ratio, and it shows you like crop lines on it if you choose to edit it that way, which is, I think, really cool. And I didn't talk about this already, but it has Xlr inputs in it, which is really cool for music. Just because it's like you can plug in from a soundboard right into those XLRs and get the good sound directly into the camera, which if I have a camera station in the back near a soundboard, it's like I instantly just plug it in and it's great. So I think I really like that about the camera. I also like the battery life on it. It has like a bigger battery, so I think the battery on it will last like 3 or 4 hours or something like that, compared to the DSLR, which is like an hour, maybe hour and a half if I'm lucky. Because there's smaller batteries, so smaller battery life makes sense. I can also plug in the camera if need be, so I can literally take the camera and plug it into like a wall outlet and the battery will be like unlimited. Like I did this when I was filming a podcast recently, and I didn't have to sweat. I wasn't like, oh, is this battery gonna die? Like, I don't know. Like I just plugged it in, and I was good. Didn't have to think twice, which is really, really, really cool to me. And it's, I think once I kind of like realized that was when I went and bought a second one of these cameras, because I was like, all right, if I'm gonna be shooting music, I want two cameras that at least look the same. I didn't want to have like 3 different cameras or use my 60D as a third camera, because I was like, that camera is so old, I don't even want to trust its quality anymore. Because that's another thing. I should have said this earlier, but that's another thing to look into when you're looking up cameras, like the amount of megapixels they have. Because obviously the more megapixels, the higher the quality. So you should like always look into that, because that's something I always chase after now. And another thing, I guess another thing to look into is like the SD cards, and like, so my Canon C100s can take 2 SD cards. So if I had like 2 128 gigabyte cards in there, that's a ton of space to work with footage wise. I can just keep recording, and I have all that space, which is like super cool. And my 60D and 60 only have 1, so it's all up to like whatever's on the 1 card, then it stops. Which, another thing, now that I'm thinking about that, another thing to look into is like a camera's recording time. For me, the C100s had unlimited recording time, and so to film music, like if an artist's like, hey, my set's an hour and a half, I'm like, cool, I got cameras, I'll let them run, that's fine. But the 60D, like the little DSLR, or even my Canon R that I'm filming this on right now, has like a 30-minute cap. So that's why you saw the video end earlier in this, because it stops at 30 minutes. So I have to like constantly think about that. So if I have this camera set up, I have to be like in my head, like, okay, at like 27 minutes or 28 minutes, like shut it off and restart it. The C100s just keep going. I think they can go like 4 or 5 hours, or however long you want them to go, which was a huge selling point for me, honestly. And for shooting music, to a T, these cameras get the job done. I've shot interviews on these since. They look really good on it. I've shot some like doc stuff on it from time to time. Looks super, super good. I also really like the C100 just because like the weight of the camera. Something about the weight and the handle on it makes you feel like you can get more of a steady shot, or you can kind of like adjust the camera a little bit more, and like it just gives you better like flexibility for holding it, and it has that handle here so you can kind of guide it, whereas like the DSLRs all depend on like your grip. And I guess I don't know if that's like a good transition out of the C100, but after I've had these C100s, I went and bought a Canon R, which is what I'm filming this on right now, which is another DSLR. And I bought that because originally because it had 1080 and 60 frames per second in it, which is really good for like slow motion shots to add in between stuff on my C100s. I use it more as a B-roll or like B-cam, or if I'm shooting in 4K, I'll use it as like a quote-unquote A-cam, which is like a main camera. And I love that it has 4K in it, because my other cameras don't have 4K. The C100s have what's called a 4K sensor in them, which means I can like expand it out to 4K if I really want, and it's not going to like lose quality. But I really, it's like a cinematic 1080 essentially. But basically that was weird. I thought I heard my doorbell for some reason, but I definitely didn't. I'd be scared. It's like midnight as I'm recording this. But anyway, yeah, so I loved the fact that I have 4K in it, and it had 1080 60, and it had this thing called digital stabilization in it, which obviously still has it. It's this mode where you like turn it on and you can like walk with your camera and have it look like pretty stable. I notice as you punch in a little bit, it starts to lose a little bit of the quality because it has to punch in for the digital stabilization, which I'm not like too fond of, which is recently why I bought a gimbal. I guess I can get into that gimbal thing too if you want me to, which I assume some people want me to talk about that, so I will. But the Canon R it's been really nice for filming YouTube videos of myself. It has autofocus in it, so I can kind of hold out the camera and keep the focus. I'm filming this podcast with autofocus on right now. So this works great for like YouTube videos. It also works really good for streaming. I can like plug in this cord and then plug this other cord into my computer. Perfect for streaming. My lenses look really good on it. The only thing that was the catch to it was I had to buy this adapter because it has like a Canon, I think it's called an M mount, and all my other lenses are like the EF mount. So I had to get like the converter. I'm going to hate myself if I said the wrong name, but I had to get the converter to go from EF to M mount, or M mount to EF, so that my 24 to 105, my 17 to 40, and my 50 millimeter all work on it. So that was the only catch to that, unless you buy Canon's new what's called M mount lenses. So if none of this stuff makes sense to you, by the way, just go on YouTube and literally keyword this stuff, because you'll see what I'm talking about and be like, oh yeah, that's the gear that he has. But yeah, so I like this camera for all those reasons I just mentioned. I also like some of the color on it, and the battery life on it actually is a little bit better than my 60D and my 6D. Like, I would have been like halfway through the battery on those already, and the battery's like still like I think 90% right now. So they definitely figured that out. This camera has not overheated yet. That's another thing I really like. I know some of their newer cameras are like overheating. That's another thing to look into when you're buying a camera. Make sure they don't overheat. I know the Canon R5 has some stuff where it overheats, so I kind of had to like stay away from that one. But I do know people that have got rid of that problem. So overheating is something to look into when you're buying a camera. Maybe I'll just do like a quick advice segment at the very end of this. But yeah, so this camera's worked really nice, especially for like B-roll when I'm like on a shoot and I just need a quick run and gun, like couple little like steadier shots or random stuff. That's like, or even like if I'm doing like behind the scenes stuff, I'll use this camera. Just because it's like quick, I can move around real fast and it's like boom, 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 one shot after the other. I feel comfortable with the stabilization on it. I'm trying to think what else I like on it. The photo mode on it's really cool. It has like, it definitely snaps photos quicker than my other DSLRs do. And I think this is like a good DSLR, a good like photo camera. It's pretty versatile. So it also has the flip out screen on it, which is really nice because the 6D didn't have the flip out screen. So this has a flip out screen. So when I'm filming skating still, that's another purpose this camera serves for me. Really good for filming skating because I can see exactly what I'm filming through the viewfinder. I really, really like that. And I also like how the lenses look on this camera, like the overall product. Even when you zoom, it stays in focus. So seriously, like shout out to Canon. Yo, Canon, sponsor me. Shout out to them because it's a good DSLR. And I think a lot of people always are like asking me they should get the Canon M or M5. What's it called? Canon M5, I think it is. I would say to get this camera over that. This is a good camera to default to. If you're a Canon person, I really like this R. And don't forget to buy that adapter. I think there's a couple different versions of this adapter. I think I bought the $175 one, but I think there's one for like $85 or $90. But love this camera. So I guess I'll go into this other camera that I'm researching right now that I think I'm gonna buy, and talk about that too, because I think that can be helpful for people to hear someone else's journey to getting another camera and what's going through their head. So I'm currently looking to buy. I haven't confirmed it yet. It depends on like budget, or depends on how much like I want to spend on it, how much I'm gonna be able to make using it, and all sorts of different things. Like, will I like? So when I say how much I'm gonna make it, like, will I earn back what I bought on it by using this camera? Another thing I'm really, really big into right now is making sure low light looks good, because I'm always in like studios or like green rooms or like random dark places, or like filming at night where I want footage to look crispy and not like a little bit grainy. I want it to look like perfectly clear at night. So this camera I'm looking to buy is the Canon FX6. The Sony FX6. I think I'm going to make the transition over to Sony soon. I've seen Canon lenses look really good on Sonys in the past. So I really like that. I like that the night footage on these cameras looks absolutely phenomenal. I also really like that it has 4K at 120 in it. That to me is phenomenal, to have a 4K picture and 120 frames per second. That means I can film like super slow motion in 4K, which I've never had that ability before. I think that'll serve me really well in the long run. And I think it's a high thing that has a lot of demand right now. And this camera, I think, can also be really good for shooting weddings. I've seen different weddings be shot on like a Sony FS5. And the other day I actually saw a wedding that was shot on the FX6. It looked so clear. It was like, it literally felt like I was like there clear. And that was partially because of the lens they were using. But mainly kind of like the camera. So those are the things that I'm thinking about as I'm like about to buy it. I still have to do more research. I mean, obviously it has like super high megapixels I really like. But what else I'm thinking about is the purchases that I have to make in order for the camera to be used. So I have to buy what's called like a P2 card for it, which is like the bigger memory card for cinema cameras. I can't just put an SD card into it because I don't think there's SD card slots in it. So one of those cards is like $300, and that's like the cheapest one you can get for it, which I probably need to get like the $500 one. So that's like a big expense just for the card. I think there's also like I'll have to buy this adapter for it that will make my Canon lenses fit on this Sony camera. I think that adapter is like close to like $300 or $400 as well. So that's another huge expense I have to think about when I'm buying it. But it's like at the end of the day, like that $300 is saving me from buying two $2,500 like lenses for this camera type thing. So it's like that $400, saved me $3,000. So it's like, yeah, that's worth it. So it's always like a money thing. It's like, will this save you this amount of money? Will you be able to get this money back on this camera? And to me, I'm like, if I get this other camera, can I charge more? Yes, I can charge more because, quite frankly, I think this footage is like that valuable. And this camera in itself is like, I think it's like a $6,000 camera. And I'm like sweating it, like even thinking of that amount right now. But, it's like people who buy guitars, people who buy like cars or whatever it is you're buying. It's what you're going to use every day. For me, this is my job. So do I need to have the latest and greatest and best of gear? Probably. So this is what's going to make me happy. I'm going to like the results. I'm going to get that good night footage I want. I'm going to get all these extra features that people will appreciate that I can now sell out another service with. I think that, dude, I'm using a battery from my 60D and it's like already dying. But at the end of the day, like, if that's if that's what's gonna make me happy and people are gonna like it, then yeah, this is the right purchase for me to make. So I have to keep doing my research, watching more videos, looking up more like menu settings, how the colors look. I have to see how, like, I always compare colors on cameras because each brand's color looks different. They have different tones in them, like blues and reds and stuff like that look different in different cameras, so I have to make sure I like that. I'm trying to think what else. Oh, there's like this big battery pack I want to get for it so that when I'm using this camera, I can literally use it all day long, nonstop. So that's really important to me. So I have to see how much that battery costs and then put together like the accessories that I'm going to get for its cost plus the camera's cost, and see what that number is like. I'm pretty sure it's like another like at least 1,000, if not like 1,500 or something. It's I don't like thinking about it. It kind of hurts. But that's another thing. Like, you have to be like, when you're buying camera stuff, you have to be smart about your money. Put away as much money as you can possible to the side for camera stuff, whether that takes you 1 year, whether that takes you 5-6 years. Put that money aside for that camera if this is what you're serious about. Because if you don't do that and you're like, I just need the cheapest that can do something, then you really don't care about it. You don't. Like, straight up, you don't care about it. You're just there to have something to shoot with, and because someone told you that's the cheapest and that's what's there. So I think talking about like cheap gear versus expensive gear is a whole nother conversation that I'll have, like probably Corey back on here and some other camera friends to talk about cheap gear versus like expensive gear. I think that's a really good conversation. But you know, at the end of the day, like, I'm just making this episode to tell you why I have the gear that I have. I think another thing to consider, people always hit me up about like lighting stuff. Right now I have this softbox like up here reflecting off my wall, lighting me up. So these softboxes that I once bought on Amazon were like $60. They've gone a super long way. I used to film like some doc stuff using these softboxes. I'd like mount them above people. These softboxes have been great for $60. If you're trying to get like some super cheap, like quick lighting, that's like not for anything like crazy serious, I'd buy them. It's a good investment, especially for like YouTube videos, for just some run and gun, maybe like fun stuff, or you're shooting something with your family, or I mean, I guess you could use them on a gig too. I wouldn't like use them for anything like crazy serious. But you know, just for like lighting yourself up in your room, lighting, like some quick run and gun lighting. These soft boxes are really good. And maybe you can use them for some serious stuff if you like really go hard and know what you're doing. You might need to get a couple of them lined up, like set them up in different spots. So these soft boxes have been nice. I bought this other light. I think it's called like an SL 600 watt. And it's like this big giant light that I use now for documentaries. And it's really nice because it like lights up like part of their face, and it's like so big that it spreads. So I have this like reflector that I bought that reflects that light. And when I bought these, when I bought those lights and the reflector, it was like, I think it sent me back like a couple $100, and those couple $100 have been like the best investment because I've been able to make it right back. And it's also just been like super useful for documentaries. And I've watched literal big documentaries that they've used this exact light, and I've seen friends' footage. I've seen my own footage. I love how it looks. I think it's a great lens for that. It's also a great light for that. This light also, I bought like a big umbrella shade to go with it. And I'm gonna look this up right now. But it's basically like a big shade that covers it and has like these like layers of diffusion. So it just kind of smooths it out on the person's face that you're pointing it at. So it's not just this big pointed light that's like super bright blowing their face out. It's like a really, really proper light. If you're listening to this and you're wondering what light it is, just send me a message. It's called the SL600 watt, but then to buy a shade with it. So I can like send you links, or I'll put the link in the bio to the shade. But yeah, so that's the light that I bought. Another light that I bought is this Yongnuo light. It's like a Yongnuo wand light, and that light I really like for documentaries too. I'll like throw it behind somebody, or I'll like reflect it off a wall, and it's like a nice like sharp light that has like a good contrast to that other soft light for filming documentaries, or for filming interviews, or for filming even like I'll use it for like YouTube videos sometimes. I'll like throw it behind me. It's a pretty good like running gun light. I'll use it for like weddings, for like lighting up a cake. Super, and it runs off like a little battery, so you can just hold it in your hand and shine it wherever you want, or I'll use it to like light up stuff when I'm cleaning even. It's a good light just for overall everyday use. I definitely recommend people buying it. I think it's like $90 or something like that, and the battery is like $30. So highly recommend using that light if you're looking for like a nice, like, I guess like cheaper, but like high, kind of like good. If it's cheaper but like has like a good use, what am I trying to say here? If you're trying to get a light that can serve you a lot of purposes but it's also cheap, that's a good light to get. It does a lot. It can change colors. It can be white, yellow, or red, blue, green, whatever the heck. So I definitely recommend that light. I also think that so for audio, I bought this it was a shotgun microphone called a Rode NTG2, and I originally bought that light because I saw some YouTuber with it, but I was like a little bit thinking like how good is this light? Is this worth it? This microphone, and I again watch YouTube videos, listen to how it sounded. Dang, dude, my fire pits ended behind me. But it sounded really good. It was like pretty crisp. I like literally would like listen to plenty of videos with it to make sure it sounded good before I got it. And it did. So that was kind of why I bought that one. I heard it and then I used it afterward, and to this day, I'll still use it for documentaries or for interviews. I'll like take it and station it directly above someone, and so when they're talking, their voice goes into it, and it sounds pretty good. I haven't had anybody complain about it. I don't feel like I have anything bad to say about it. I like how it sounds. I've seen it used for, like I said, other like bigger YouTubers. There's plenty of other microphones you can get. If you just search like shotgun microphone, always just ask, like, you can either ask other people that have that microphone how it sounds. One thing that always comes up that people always say is like, hey Max, I have like this camera, and what if I got like this brand lens, and it'll be like a brand that I don't have. And I guess it's cool that people are asking me that, but at the end of the day, when it's something that I don't have, my base of knowledge is either just as good as yours, or sometimes I'll know of a friend with that lens. And I guess where I'm going with this is like, just look up like YouTube videos. Though I keep saying YouTube videos, but that truly is like visually and like whatever you have plugged in, if you have headphones on or whatever, visually and like from an audio way, you'll be able to tell if that's right for you. Or even just like renting too helps you decide that. So I think as far as that's what I have. For lighting, I guess, sorry, I'm kind of traveling back here, but for lighting, I also have like this whole entire kit of like random colored lights, kind of just like some cheap Home Depot lights, but there's also some like cool like little colored ones in there that you guys have seen me light up, or even if you're new here, I light up So Far Sounds shows with them. And if you look up like So Far Sound Chicago and you see some colors, they're all done with those lights. It's just like a random assortment of Illumi lights and lights with gels. If you're looking into buying lighting, like maybe buy some like I to this day I don't like for So Fars, those lights are great. Or for some like smaller little things that you need to light up that are like close quarters, I guess the Illumi lights are kind of nice. Maybe they're better used for like lighting up a party or I don't know, something like that. So honestly, I think if you're looking into lighting, that I'm not much of a lighting guy other than the lights that I have that I already talked about. And those I've done like my research on and I've seen really good results with. So for me, lighting, I have to do like research one by one. Like, I know there's like these other lights I'm trying to buy that are like called quasar lights, and I'm still on the fence with buying them because I've seen mixed results. I've seen some people get really good results. I've seen some people get like some like iffy results. So I'm to this day like literally looking up YouTube videos on these quasar lights. And now this other brand that I can't think of right now just released another light that I think is better than them. So now I'm like, now I might have to forget about those and get this light. So it's all like a research game. Just keep researching and either rent the light first or maybe just make an impulse buy and buy it. And you know what? As long as it suits you good in the long run, you're good. I'm not too big of a fan of short-term purchases. I'm not one to just buy something and be like, cool, this will work for 4 or 5 days or maybe like 2 days and I won't really need it after that. I'm not too big on that. I mean, a couple things I've done that with before were like weird accessories. Like I have this like little like reflector thing that I bought at a science store that like does some cool reflections on my lens. I liked it for like a few weeks, but I didn't really use it after that. There's really small things I've done that with. But yeah, just whatever you're going to buy, make sure you get like long-term use out of it and that it's what you personally like, at the end of the day. And if you're shooting low light, make sure you get the camera that can shoot low light. So look up like low light tests because otherwise you're going to have some like super, super grainy footage that on another camera that you didn't expect to like not have good lighting. So I don't know. I feel like I'm sort of repeating myself at this point, and I think this would be a good place to end this podcast. If you guys have any questions, please leave comments, and if you enjoyed this episode, definitely let me know, because I would absolutely love, I would definitely absolutely love, what am I saying? Oh, I would love to hear your input, and I'd love to know if this is another episode I should make. Maybe like I'll do like episode 7, and 7.5 is another gear thing or like camera thing. Maybe that'll be something. I'll like on point whatever will be like gear or camera talk. So you'll know if you see like 7.5, you're like, he's talking gear again. We'll see. We'll see how that goes. But yeah, if you got this far in the podcast, appreciate you listening, and let me know your thoughts in the comments. Next episode should have my buddy on it, and then the week after I have another friend coming on the podcast. So just gonna try to keep having guests on here. If you're interested in being on here, let me know, send me a message, and let's get you on here. Let's talk about what you do, whatever fun thing you do. And if you're listening to this on Spotify, thank you for listening too. Gonna keep putting all the episodes on Spotify because I heard there's some people wanting to listen in their car. So appreciate you listening for the 1,000th time. But yeah, talk to you guys in the next episode. Peace.